In the icy heart of the Karakoram Range, a towering monolith pierces the sky, K2. At 92,000 feet, it is the world's second highest peak, overshadowed only by Mount Everest. But for those who know the mountains, K2's reputation is unmatched. Its nickname, the Killer Mountain, tells you everything. George Bell, a climber on the 1953 American expedition, said, "It's a savage mountain that tries to kill you." Steeper, more unpredictable, and less forgiving than Everest, K2 has a chilling fatality rate. 1 in 4 climbers who attempt to conquer it do not return. Unlike Everest, with its well-trodden routes and support infrastructure, K2 demands raw skill, unrelenting courage, and perhaps a touch of madness. The bottleneck, a narrow ice wall at 27,000 feet, is one of the most treacherous sections of the climb. Here, climbers must traverse beneath towering seracs, unstable ice blocks the size of buildings. At that altitude, helicopters cannot rescue anyone. On K2, you are utterly on your own. For Wilco van Rooijen, this deadly challenge was not just a goal, but an obsession. Wilco's love for the outdoors began in the flat, unremarkable landscapes of the Netherlands. As a boy, he devoured stories of explorers and climbers who dared to go where no one else would. He dreamed of scaling the highest peaks, seeing the world from a perspective few could imagine. But life in the Netherlands, with its windmills and canals, offered little in the way of mountains. His first taste of climbing came during a family vacation in the Alps. The icy air, the rugged terrain, and the sense of danger awakened something in him. Over the years, Wilco turned that dream into a reality. He scaled the 7 highest peaks on each continent and trekked to both the North and South Poles. Unlike many climbers who rely on supplemental oxygen, Wilco insisted on doing it clean. He climbed using only his body's natural capabilities, believing it to be the purest form of mountaineering. This philosophy earned him respect and admiration in the climbing community, but it also came with incredible risks. By 2008, Wilco had already attempted to summit K2 twice, but failed both times. The mountain seemed to mock him, standing as an impenetrable fortress. This time he was determined. He had a new team, renewed energy, and a dream he couldn't let go of. But this climb came with added stakes. Wilco was now a father. His wife had just given birth to their son. "You're a father now," friends reminded him. "How can you take such a risk?" Wilco understood their concern, but the pull of the mountain was stronger. His wife, though fearful, supported him. With her blessing, Wilco began preparing for the climb that would change his life forever. The expedition began with a sense of camaraderie and cautious optimism. Wilco's team included some of the most skilled mountaineers in the world, including Gerard McDonald, an Irish climber known for his humor and determination, Cas van de Gevel, the close friend of Wilco's, and Pemba Gyalja Sherpa, a seasoned guide with years of experience in the Himalayas. They knew the risks. On K2, even the smallest mistake can lead to catastrophe. But they also knew the rewards, the chance to stand on one of the most remote and breathtaking places on Earth. The climb was brutal from the start. Temperatures dropped to minus 30 degrees Celsius, and the air grew thinner with every step. At altitudes above 23,000 feet, the human body begins to shut down. Wilco described it as a slow-motion battle against your own physiology. Every step required immense effort, and rest was not an option. The team pressed on, driven by their shared goal. After weeks of grueling progress, they reached the bottleneck. The most dangerous section of the climb. The bottleneck is a narrow couloir situated just 1,300 feet below K2's summit. Overhung by massive seracs from an ice field to the east, it poses a constant threat to climbers. To navigate this treacherous stretch, they must traverse 330 feet directly beneath the unstable ice. At an altitude of 26,900 feet and with slopes as steep as 50 to 60 degrees, the bottleneck is widely regarded as the most perilous section of the climb. The ice wall loomed above them, a 90-degree vertical barrier. Climbers here are completely exposed to falling ice and avalanches. One false move could send the entire team plummeting to their deaths, but they had prepared for this. They had installed safety ropes on their ascent, which they planned to use for their descent. Slowly, painstakingly, they made it through the bottleneck and pushed toward the summit. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached the top. The view was beyond words. At 92,000 feet, they were higher than nearly every living thing on Earth. The shadow of K2 stretched across the horizon, and the curvature of the Earth was visible. For a brief moment, the exhaustion and danger melted away. Wilco and his teammates embraced, tears streaming down their faces. They had done it. They had conquered the killer mountain. But on K2, the summit is only half the journey. As the team began their descent, the first signs of trouble appeared. The weather, which had been stable, started to shift. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon, and the wind picked up. At this altitude, storms can arrive without warning, turning the mountain into a death trap. When they reached the bottleneck, they discovered their worst nightmare. The safety ropes were gone. Falling ice had severed the lines and dislodged the anchors, sending everything plunging into the abyss below. Without ropes, their descent became a perilous gamble. Every step was a potential death sentence. The team was forced to bivouac on the icy slopes, huddling together to survive the freezing night. They had no food or water, and the temperatures dropped even further. Wilco's condition deteriorated. He became snowblind, a painful condition caused by the sun reflecting off the ice. Each blink felt like shards of glass cutting into his eyes. Exhausted and in agony, he knew he had to keep moving. On K2, staying still is a death sentence. In a moment of desperation, Wilco called Helene from his satellite phone. She was at home in the Netherlands, cradling their infant son. "I don't know if I'll make it," he admitted, his voice shaking. Helene urged him to hold on. "You're a father now," she reminded him. "You have to come back to us." With tears streaming down his face, Wilco promised her he would try. Shortly after the call, he collapsed. When Wilco lost consciousness on the slopes of K2, the odds were against him. At that altitude, with his body pushed to the brink, survival seemed impossible. Yet after what felt like hours, Wilco opened his eyes. To his astonishment, he discovered that he had only been unconscious for 30 minutes. Back home, at the exact moment Wilco had collapsed, his normally calm son began crying uncontrollably. His wife later told Wilco that it was as if their baby was saying goodbye. For Wilco, this inexplicable connection became a source of strength. Somehow he found the will to rise and keep moving. Step by agonizing step, Wilco descended the mountain. Dehydration, frostbite, and exhaustion ravaged his body, but his mind refused to surrender. He repeated a simple mantra: "I must live for my son." After what felt like an eternity, he stumbled into a climber's camp.
Okay, now I give a radio for the Wilco. You can talk with the Wilco.
Oké, Roland. Kleine update. Net kamp 3 bereikt. Alles is helemaal in goede conditie, behalve de voeten. Dat is ook niet zo gek als je 3 dagen buiten hebt moeten leven op alleen maar sneeuw eten. Maar er zijn nu wat grotere problemen aan de hand. Een paar mensen die missen. Sowieso al een aantal doden gesignaleerd. Pemma wil iets meer daarover weten. Did you copy that? Over?
Ja, Wilco, heel even Nederlands. We staan hier met z'n allen met tranen in onze ogen te luisteren. We zijn zo ontzettend blij dat we je hebben gevonden en dat je veilig thuis bent. En we gaan er alles aan doen om je weer veilig beneden te krijgen. Over.
Dank je, dat doet me goed om te weten, want als je een paar dagen alleen rondloopt op die berg, dan, en zeker met die white-out, dan wordt je wereldje wel heel klein. En ik geef je nu even aan Pemba, want die wil even wat meer informatie weten, ook over Hughes. Over.
Copy that, Pemba.
There he found safety and learned the full extent of the tragedy. Among those Wilco climbed with was Gerard MacDonald, an experienced and compassionate mountaineer from Ireland. MacDonald had become the first Irishman to summit K2, but the descent claimed his life. When a massive serac collapsed, cutting the fixed ropes, at least 17 climbers were left stranded in the death zone, trapped in one of the most inhospitable places on Earth. As chaos unfolded, McDonald's teammates recounted his extraordinary bravery during those harrowing hours. Refusing to descend alone, he stayed behind to assist climbers who were injured or tangled in ropes. In an act of incredible selflessness, he gave his life to save others. Though McDonald's body was never recovered, his legacy endures. Wilco returned to the Netherlands a changed man. His toes were amputated due to frostbite, and he arrived at Schiphol Airport in a wheelchair. Yet he was alive. Seeing his wife and son again was profoundly emotional. "My toes didn't matter," he said. "All that mattered was that I was with my family." The experience left Wilco with a deep sense of gratitude and a mission to live life with purpose. He now shares his story in talks and lectures, emphasizing the importance of facing challenges head-on and cherishing every moment. For Wilco, surviving K2 was no coincidence. Whether it was fate, divine intervention, or the cries of his son, he believes something beyond comprehension saved him that day. Today, Wilco continues to push boundaries, planning new adventures and advocating for a more conscious approach to life. "The mountains gave me everything," he reflects. "They taught me to live with gratitude, to embrace challenges, and to never take a single day for granted." Against all odds, Wilco van Rooijen survived the deadliest climb in K2's history. His story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the power of connection, and the unyielding will to survive.